At first glance, IDW Sonic comics burst with vibrant colors and fast-paced adventures, but beneath that lively surface lies a strikingly dark thematic core. At its heart, Sonic represents the spirit of free will, fighting not only for victory, but for the right of others to make their own choices, be it for better or worse. In stark contrast, Eggman stands as the embodiment of control, believing that the world's chaos can only be tamed through absolute order. To him, free will is a flaw, one that must be eradicated to achieve his twisted vision of perfection. This clash between freedom and control isn't just a backdrop, it drives the narrative forward, leading to devastating consequences for those caught in the crossfire. Through these stories, the comics pose a powerful question. Who are we without the ability to choose? And why does that freedom matter so much? So join me as we explore the surprisingly dark battle for free will within the world of Sonic. Eggman has always been consumed by his obsession with control, which he would channel into his work with machines. For years, he powered his badniks through the twisted practice of extracting bioenergy from animals, imprisoning them within the confines of his mechanical creations. Cruel as this was, it never brought him the complete, unquestioned order that he craved. But Eggman is always seeking new methods to defeat his foes, driving him deeper into the dark recesses of his mind. And it's within the confines of his brilliant mind that something truly twisted took shape. A virus of his own design. The metal virus is a grotesque manifestation of his ideals. It transforms any organic being into a mindless, liquid metal creature. Gone are the traces of individuality, personality, or free will. They become empty vessels, mere puppets for Eggman's use. This is a clear, yet terrifying shift in Eggman's plans. He is no longer satisfied with merely enslaving organic beings in order to power his machines. Rather, he seeks to strip them of their very autonomy. The metal virus is not just a weapon, it's the embodiment of his ideology, control that is absolute and unchallenged. And that is the truest horror of the metal virus, and in turn, all zombie apocalypse scenarios. It's not merely the violence or the relentless destruction that makes these scenarios so terrifying, it's the loss of self, knowing that those who fall victim to the virus are gone. Every memory, every dream, every spark of individuality snuffed out. What remains is a husk, shambling forward with no mind of its own. And that perhaps makes this Eggman's most terrifying creation yet. The effects of the metal virus raises a deeper, haunting question. What truly makes us who we are? Is it our personality, our memories, our habits, or perhaps something more profound like a soul? Eggman's ultimate goal with the metal virus was to strip all of that away. Everything that makes a person a unique individual. Their thoughts, feelings, and memories would no longer matter. They would no longer belong to themselves, but instead become mere extensions of Eggman's will. And even though the Zombots eventually resisted Eggman's command frequencies, it wasn't exactly a return to autonomy. It was something more primal. The remnants of the life they lived before were still gone, leaving only a shell driven by animalistic instinct. And that loss, that severing of identity, is what made the metal virus so devastating. For Sonic and his friends, watching those close to them become unrecognizable, stripped of everything that made them who they were, was a torment that echoes a real-life heartbreak. The pain of witnessing a loved one suffer from an affliction such as Alzheimer's, the decline of mental function, the fading of cherished memories, the vanishing spark of the person they once knew. It's a grief like no other. Their body remains, evoking all the warmth of shared memories, yet the essence of the individual slips away. It's a sorrow that lingers because they aren't truly gone, yet in many ways, they are. And that is the utter cruelty of Eggman's virus. It wasn't merely a means of control. It was a tool to break the individuality of everyone on the planet. Had it not been for Starline's meddling, Eggman's twisted vision might have come to pass, where free will itself was erased, leaving only one mind to dictate the fate of all. A world where autonomy was a relic of the past, and Eggman stood as the sole architect of thought and action. But fate took a different turn, and thanks to the relentless efforts of Sonic and his friends, the metal virus was ultimately vanquished. Yet, while the virus was put to an end, Eggman's ambitions were not. His ideology endured, taking root not only within himself, but in the mind of his former protege, Dr. Starline. Eggman's metal virus revealed the sheer horror of a world where free will is extinguished. But Starline's dark experiments exposed something just as terrifying, as it gave us a first-hand look at the desperate struggle to reclaim one's autonomy, to grasp at stolen memories, and the nightmarish reality of being trapped in a mind that is no longer familiar to you. Determined to succeed where Eggman had failed, Starline sought to create his own versions of Sonic and Tails, which he could twist and mold to his will. But in order to achieve this, he needed more than mere machines. He needed vessels capable of passion, of drive, qualities that no lifeless automaton could ever truly emulate. And as a result, the world was introduced to the tragic figures of Surge and Kit, not heroes and not even villains in the truest sense. Instead, victims, empty husks whose past identities had been stolen, their desires and ambitions nothing more than manufactured echoes of Starline's own design. He hollowed them out, erasing everything that once made them unique, much like the metal virus had done before. But where Eggman's virus stripped away free will through mindless automation, Starline's experiment was more insidious by nature, as he did not simply erase their minds, but rewrote them, ensuring that everything they would want and become in life was all part of his grand scheme. Their very existence was defined by subjugation, even as they began to resist Starline's control. But no matter how fiercely they fought back, they could never silence the deep-seated compulsions that Starline had planted within them. This internal war the two continued to face is the desperate struggle to claim an identity that was never truly theirs, which in turn has pushed them to the brink of madness. Who were they really? Could they ever be anything more than puppets playing out a script written by someone else? It's a chilling realization to know your autonomy has been stolen, to feel that your choices were never truly your own. This is the torment that fuels Surge and Kit's rage, and in that, their pain and outbursts of anger become all too understandable, because when you no longer know who you are, the abyss of dread and hopelessness is never far behind. What's fascinating is that during Sonic's initial confrontation with Surge, a deeper philosophical divide emerges, stemming from the importance of free will. Surge lashes out, blaming Sonic for allowing villains like Starline and Eggman to continue existing despite the harm that they inflict. To her, Sonic's unwavering moral code isn't noble. In fact, she finds it rather naive. In her eyes, his refusal to eliminate these threats has cost her and others their freedom and agency. And truthfully, her argument does bear some weight. But Sonic counters her point by admitting that he doesn't truly know Surge or her full story, and because of that, he won't pass judgment. Yet, at the same time, he makes it clear he can't allow her to hurt others, because when you use your freedom to inhibit someone else's, that is when he has to intervene. I like how Sonic, instead of rushing to judgments or anger, simply wants to understand Surge, because the truth is, no matter how deeply we think we understand someone, we rarely ever know the whole of them. As humans, we often catch others in isolated moments, at their worst or perhaps even their best, and from that, we rush to form conclusions about them. And painting a picture of who someone really is quite easy when we're only seeing fragments. Take Eggman for instance. Like just mentioned, he has often sought to bend the world to his will by any means necessary. And yet, who would have guessed that so much of Eggman's malice and cruelty might stem from something as human as childhood neglect? That beneath his theatrical and cruel persona, he could be capable of love and being a father. Of course, none of this absolves him. The pain he's caused can't be undone. But Sonic understands something crucial. Every villain has a story, and sometimes that story includes the potential for redemption. And that's the key difference. Where others might see an irredeemable monster, Sonic still sees a choice. A chance for even someone like Eggman to choose a different path. Not because he turns a blind eye to evil, but because he believes in the possibility of change. And while others want absolute order, I do find the approach of giving others a choice to do right is the most heroic approach. In this encounter, Sonic approaches Surge with wisdom and patience, hoping that she'll truly listen to him, letting his words take heart so that, like others, she has the opportunity to make amends. But Surge can only focus on the negative. With her mind rewritten, autonomy feels like an illusion, slipping further out of reach without a past to anchor her. And in attacking Sonic, she isn't merely lashing out, but she's proving just how deeply Starline has robbed her of control. Yet, despite everything, Surge and Kit have fought to reclaim their autonomy, to forge an identity beyond the hands that shaped them. Still, the past lingers over them, haunting every waking moment, refusing to release its grip. And perhaps in confronting the past, they'll finally discover who they are meant to be, regaining their autonomy in the process. The IDW comics have a way of slipping these heavy, thought-provoking ideas into their storytelling. The nature of control, the struggle for self-determination, and ultimately, the haunting question, what does it truly mean to be free? I was actually drawn to looking further into the theme of free will in Sonic because yet another character finds himself at the mercy of lost autonomy. After humiliating Eggman with an eye-catching commercial, Clutch unknowingly sealed his fate. Eggman doesn't take mockery lightly, and when the moment came to strike, he did. And for a time, there was no news of what had become of Clutch after Eggman had abducted him. But then, out of the blue, he resurfaced, seemingly unscathed. When questioned by Sonic and the Chaotix, he claimed that he had escaped when the opportunity arose. But escaping Eggman's wrath, especially after publicly embarrassing him, is a far stretch. And sure enough, as soon as the Chaotix and Sonic took their leave, the truth unraveled. Eggman had let Clutch go, but not after he placed a device on Clutch's head, a sinister tool designed to strip him of his will, to turn him into nothing more than a puppet. Eggman once again displays how little he regards the free will of those around him. And Clutch is no pushover. He was always scheming, always seeking the upper hand, but now he's been reduced to a mere extension of Eggman's will, forced to obey without question. The struggle for free will is one of the most compelling themes woven throughout the IDW Sonic comics. What makes it so fascinating is how deeply it's ingrained in the characters themselves, seeing how Eggman's obsession with control has pushed him to an extreme where, in his eyes, the only way to build a perfect world is to erase the very concept of free will is so dark. In his eyes, order can only exist when no one else has the power to choose, and that's what makes Sonic's ideals so powerful by contrast. Sonic isn't just a hero, he's the embodiment of free will. He lives by choice and only steps in when others are denied theirs. His freedom is not just about speed or action, it's about principle. It's about protecting the right for everyone to chart their own path. Thematically, I find it quite brilliant. It turns the conflict between Sonic and Eggman into more than just good versus evil. It becomes a philosophical clash between control and choice, oppression and autonomy. So let me know what you think about the theme of free will in the IDW comics. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and check out the video here for even more Sonic lore. As always, I wish you all the best, take care, peace.